Right, I just didn't want that to stop your flow, Gemma, because it throws everybody off.
No, all good. So yes, welcome everyone. Let's see if I can share some slides. Hold on a moment. Options have slightly changed there for me, but bear with me. Hopefully everyone can see that now. Is that up? Yeah, all good.
Yeah,
Great.
that looks lovely.
Brilliant. So yes, so I'm here to talk about the BBC Children in Need Emergency Essentials Programme. The programme went live in June 2018, and it is one of the biggest grants in the portfolio at £3 million per year is what is dedicated to this fund. And it's an individual grant programme, so it's a little bit different to what they normally do. It's not, we don't fund projects with this £3 million. We specifically give it directly to families in crisis. So let me talk a bit more about that in a moment. So the whole point of the fund was to support a child's most basic of needs, such as, you know, a cooker to have a hot meal, or to, you know, just have a good night's sleep in a proper bed, and all of that, and to feel ready to face the day, I guess, you know, to be in school and to be able to concentrate, having had, you know, the ability to cook a hot meal, or to, you know, or even if it's just clothing. You know, they're walking to school potentially with a pair of shoes with holes in and their feet are getting wet. Well, this programme can do all of that as well. So I will go into more about the items that we provide. And you can see there that the grant outcomes lead into the children in need impact, and all of that. So yeah, it's to improve a child's emotional well-being, but also not only that, physical emotional well-being is what most of our grants support, but also to help build better family relationships. And I suppose even though we can't do items on behalf of a parent, it does release some of that stress to know that your children have got, if they haven't got a bed to sleep in, they've got one now. So that's what the programme's all about. We are a referrer only programme. That's the key thing here. So members of the public can't apply directly. So we need to have that referring organisation in the middle. And I'll talk to you about what our referrer makeup looks like. I've got a slide on that, so that might be quite interesting for everyone to see who our referrers are. It's a massive mixed bag. But before we get there, we'll look at a few more things. So yeah, the registration process, you know, we're not open to applications at the moment. We've spent our money this year, so we're back in a couple of weeks. Probably the first week in June, with another £3 million to provide, you know, these crisis grants. So I would urge you, if you're interested in joining the programme and becoming a referrer, you might as well get registered now, and then you'll be ready for when we need to relaunch in June. You will have, as an individual referrer, so it's not organisational accounts, it's individual referrer accounts. So each of, you know, your team members will have your emergency essentials dashboard. You log in, it's all online. You'll be able to make your application from the dashboard. You'll see your progress of applications which have been submitted as well in the dashboard. So that's all yours, and it will have everything that you submitted there. We take around 5 to 7 days to make a decision on an application, but the year-to-date figures looking at well, it was 3.2 days. So when I last looked, so we try our best to get the decisions to you as a referrer as quickly as we can, but we can take up to 10 days if we need more information. So that's just to manage your expectations there. So everything is electronic with us. There's no paper, and we would need your work email address to send all the correspondence to you. There's no paper, as I've said. But any problems with that, you can just, you know, ask me a question on it, and I can help with that. Myself and Emma, we are the partnerships team on the programme, and we're here to support the network of referrers. So any questions you've got, you can always direct it at us. Okay, so criteria. So this is the access criteria. And so age there falls under the Children in Need charity articles. So obviously they support children from when they're born in their projects to they're 17, and then they can't support after that, same as us really. Residency, well, that might have changed because remember we started a long time ago, but this remains the same for us on the Emergency Essentials programme with what we deliver. So as soon as a young person becomes 18, then we can't support, unless they've got a child of their own, of course, then obviously we can. Residency, so we don't have a residency criteria on this programme, which is something we're very pleased to say. There can be lots of barriers, can't there, for finding support for families seeking asylum, for example, and everything that comes from that. So yeah, we can support a child as long as they are living in the United Kingdom. Income criteria, again, this is quite a fluid one, so you'll be pleased to hear that you don't need to be in receipt of a means tested benefit to access this fund. I know a number of hardship funds do require that. With this, we're working with referrers, so we say to our referrers, the family needs to be on a low income. We do have a definition of that, but generally they need to be experiencing poverty or destitution. And because we're working with professionals, we know that you wouldn't be trying to access us if you thought the family had the means to get that item that they needed. So yeah, we can work through that, and we recognise in work poverty, so we can support a wealth of families really. Other sources of public funds. This is a tricky one now. So back when we started in 2018, there was so much more local welfare provision, other bits, hardship funds and things that we'd say, and statutory pots potentially that we would push our referrers towards before coming to us. We know that that is more of a postcode lottery now, especially across England. The nations are different. So if you do know that the statutory body fund has that money there to meet that need, then please reserve our funding for those who can't access that. That would be great if that's really what that message is. But if you have exhausted everything, then of course you can, where your last resort, come to us, no problem. Vulnerability and crisis. So the key one here, and the main reason why we do have declines on the programme, is because vulnerability, I think we find that quite easy to convey in applications, our referrers. The crisis element can be the most difficult. So it's that immediate need, that crisis, why, the child needs support right now, or young person. But another thing to say, so if you were to present an application which focuses on financial hardship, then we wouldn't be able to support that, because anyone who can apply is on a low income, is facing financial hardship. So it can't be the main reason for application. And obviously there needs to be, the grant delivery officers are looking for vulnerability, that, the list there is endless. I'll go into that again in a minute. And then crisis. So the two things that we have to establish within the application to move it forward. They don't need war and peace. When you're filling out the application, a couple of sentences for each one normally does the trick, I'll be honest. So to give you an idea of what we see the most of, so vulnerability, so the grant delivery officer will select from a long list of vulnerabilities, crisis reasons, and this is just, obviously we couldn't list every one, but it gives you an idea of what we see the most of. So homelessness or temporary accommodation or some sort of housing problem is really pushing the board for us there at the moment on the vulnerability, which you won't be surprised, I'm sure, to hear, given the housing crisis in the UK. Disability, mental health significantly increased. So we used to see a lot more of, so this programme used to be quite centred around domestic abuse, I'd say. It wouldn't be the only reason why you could apply. But about 30% of our applications pre-pandemic were for domestic abuse as a standalone issue. That changed when we hit the cost of living crisis, came out of the pandemic, cost of living crisis, I'd say it really switched. And then, so, I mean, there may be domestic abuse in that homelessness story there, but definitely if that is the presenting issue, then that is what the grant delivery officer will pick. The other thing just to say as well, so the crisis elements, you can see loss or breakdown of an essential item there as being the strongest of the crisis criteria. That is 100% linked to the cost of living crisis. Again, another trend that we've seen from pandemic into the cost of living crisis, that little switch there. The application themes are quite stark, really, when you think about it, because they do paint a picture of deepening poverty and inequality, is what we'd say, you know, from the housing crisis, mental health and cost of living crisis, and impacts that we're seeing all the way through, and do, you know, have a huge bearing on whether, on what a child or young person's life chances are as well, aren't they? So yeah, it was just to highlight really what, you know, what we see as these vulnerabilities, and yeah, to try and hit that one home. Like I say, the list is endless, isn't it? And every household is different, but it may give you an idea of what we see. So grant application journey, yeah, so 90% of our applications are approved, 10% aren't, obviously, and that is probably, I'd say the major bit of the 10% is 12-month reapplication rules. We've got a 12-month rule where if a family's had support, they can't come to us for 12 months. So that's a small amount of the 10%. And then the major one is the vulnerability and crisis. So the grant delivery officer couldn't find anything else apart from financial hardship. And although we recognise that's a massive issue with the cost of living crisis and everything, we hope you appreciate that we really need that additional element to be able to grant, because that's the criteria. So how they do it, your application, when you make one as a referrer, will be seen by 2 grant delivery officers, not 1. We have a separation of duty and it sees 2 different people as it goes through. That's one thing in our decision making. The first grant delivery officer will look at the vulnerability and crisis and assess that, see if it's there. If they can't see it, then they will ask for further information. They never decline at that stage. They always ask for more information. They give you a chance to turn that around. We really don't like to say no, you see. So yeah. Once we have everything, we push it through. We have a 7-day processing target, but as I've said, we've been working on 3 days, so that's been really good. And the referrers, you know, obviously appreciate getting their decisions quickly, because obviously the situation, the children and young people are in a, you know, facing crisis and requiring an immediate solution. So yeah. Fulfillment, suppliers, items and audit. Okay, so our model is what we prefer. We don't really like cash. We don't really like vouchers, to be honest. We know our referrers mirror that as well, in that they don't want to be doing the full administration of the grants as well. So we have a direct delivery model, which means if you need beds for a child, if you need a white good for a child, if you need a furniture item for a child, we'll get it to the family. We you know, and there's no flat pack or anything like that. We've got a full contract with our furniture supplier to resolve that, which can be a problem, can't it? I'm sure. So yeah, we try our best to use that model, but it isn't always possible, because there might be something that we agree to do which doesn't sit within the supply chain. So then we have to work a solution out with the organisation, and that would be a backs payment to the organisation. And to be honest, I'd say the 1% that we do in cash is probably school uniforms. So blazers for high school children, because that's a very localised requirement, isn't it? How, you know, the blazers with the badges and all that sort of stuff. So we know that can be the only way that we can get that out. So that represents the 1% there. And then vouchers. So we do clothing vouchers. They are, you know, they're great. It depends though if the geography works for you, in that the list of shops are anywhere near your beneficiary, I guess. So that's something to take into account. The love to shop cards, they are, so you receive a decision email as a referrer and it's got a pin on it, but the love to shop card goes directly to the beneficiary. So they do need to contact you and talk to you before they can activate the card. So you get that minute to say to them, okay, this is the PIN number, and we really need to have a copy of the receipts for whatever you buy, please. And moving on to the audit requirements there. So we ask that our referrers keep copies of any receipts for up to 12 months. Backs awards, as soon as the item's purchased, I would send that into us, to our audit team. Again, you can get in touch with me to find out more about how to do that. You might be asked by our audit team to confirm that a direct delivery item has been received by the beneficiary. Again, it's just another check and balance for us to make sure that the item that we've been invoiced for has actually got there. So all of those things that we require after post-award. So with the items, so your big ones, your cookers, your washing machines, all of that, we include delivery, installation, and removal and recycling. So that's a key thing that I do get asked from people is, do you take away the old white good items? Yes, we do. It's within our contract with AO to do that. So another worry which can be taken away, because I know that costs money, doesn't it? Grant items by category. So this is across the board. So 63% furniture items are what we grant. And that'll be beds. So obviously the Emergency Essentials programme has been doing a lot of work on BBC around bed poverty in the UK. So this programme does a lot, to be fair, when it comes to bed poverty. Last year as well, you'd be interested to hear, on the white goods side, we provided, a chunk of our funding went on washing machines, for example. So yeah, a huge amount of money is spent on washing machines and cookers. But that's another story for another day, I guess. Clothing, baby equipment, and the other there will probably be school uniform is basically what we grant. But the top items, beds, always beds. Application tips and avoiding decline. So I've already said a little bit about the main reasons for decline at the bottom there. I'll talk about the tiered strategy in a moment, and obviously the age. We do get a lot of declines for age, whether it be a referrer applying on behalf of an unborn child, and we unfortunately can't grant those applications. It's not within our criteria to do that. But as soon as the child is born, then please do make that application on their behalf, and we'll be as quick as we can to get it out to you. So focus on the circumstances, the household vulnerabilities and immediate crisis facing the family. Steer away from focusing on financial hardship alone. We talked about that a while ago. That's a key one though. So don't start your write-up with anything regarding financial hardship. Try and give the vulnerability in the household, and then move on to talk about obviously the financial difficulties that the household is in, that they're not able to meet that need, that this is really the only chance for them to have this item. And moving on to the impact the crisis is having on the child or young person. And a little bit about explain, I know it sounds obvious, but explain the impact that the item will have on the child and their family. Hit it home to the grant delivery officer in a few sentences. And I think if you stick to that sort of model, it's a couple of sentences. Start off with the vulnerability, crisis. You could talk about obviously the financial hardship and the difficulties that's facing them, whether it be the cost of living crisis. They could have lost their job, there could have been pandemic, then cost of living crisis. We see that all the way through our applications at the moment. We do see the impact of the pandemic. We then see cost of living crisis compounding it twice. And that's why we do help out. We do help families more than once, and we have done in the last couple of years, because obviously, things happen. And we're there for that one-off item that someone might need. Other hardship programs probably don't support that, so that's one for you to consider, when you're having a look for an essential item for a family. So yeah, the next thing is item requests. So we sometimes receive we did in the past receive applications without any items on them, so that was a bit difficult, but we just asked that you do list the items that you need, and there is a table for you to do that. And please put them in priority order, because we can't grant everything, but we will try our best to do as much as we can. We do have a rule where we can only award one item per household where it comes to a white good item. So if you're applying for a washing machine, if you're applying for a cooker, it's likely that you will only have one of those items. So please put your request in priority order. Which one is the item that's most needed? With the smaller kitchen appliances and the other bits of furniture we do, again, we'll try and do as much as we can, but just please put everything in priority order. What is the main need in that household? And the request from us there. And that should be, it should be good. The only thing I have to say as well is beds. So obviously, if there are 5 children in the household, we don't just grant one of them a bed. All 5 children would get a bed. So we have those larger grants, smaller grants across the board, really, that maintain around an average grant value of about £320. That's not to say that that's what you'll get or the family will get. It's just how those different requests all group together and become that particular model. And that's how we manage the £3 million across the year. The other thing we have in place is a tiered strategy. You'll see that on the bottom, the tier strategy. That would be a reason where a referrer is declined. So to support programme longevity, I do have a slide on this and we've got a little bit of time, so I will go back to that in a minute. I just want to talk about the tiered strategy because it's my end slide, but I'll go back. So this was to help us really manage demand where we can, and referrers, we obviously consulted with referrers to see what we could do, because at the time we'd just come out with a pandemic, facing the cost of living crisis, and demand was through the roof. It's still high now, of course, in various regions. And this really helps us to balance things. So when we can see that a region, so you have an allocated amount in the southwest, in the central region, in the north of England, and the nations have a different allocation, London and southeast. When we can see that you're really pushing ahead and you might be at risk of not being open for grants, we technically put restrictions on, I guess. So the North and Central region, for example, have been in Tier 3 for a while. That's 1 application per referrer per calendar month. Southwest have been in Tier 4. And it's likely that is where we will reopen. So just to manage referrer expectations, it will be very likely Tier 4 will be applied when we start in June, and that will mean that you can make up to 2 or 4.
I'll check it now. Wait a moment.
Sorry.
Yeah, if
it's okay. Okay, that was a question. No worries. Yeah, so 2 to 4, probably 2 applications per referrer per calendar month. So that will mean each referrer can help 2 families while we work out how the demand levels are looking for next year. And that's the honest truth. And it really does help us to remain open, but to be there for the referrers who need us, and have us in their back pocket, and our referrers know that they can use us how many times. But all of that is always on the dashboard when you log in, and it'll say where you're at. Okay, go back. Sorry about that. So yeah, moving on. This is how you register. Go to the main website, start it all, and you should be away. It's just basic details that you need to set at the start with a password. You'll then get an email verification to your registered email account, sort that out, and then you'll be able to log back in, fill out the form, and the form just asks about where you work, who you are, and your contact information. That then gets pinged back to our team. They look at it and decide yes or no on the registrations, and then we take you from there through the journey. So we'll share those links for you, of course, and we'll look forward to welcoming you on the programme, hopefully. I did say a bit about referrer makeup to give you an idea of who our referrers are. We've got a good mix of charity, community, grassroots organisations. We're trying to obviously improve that. The local authority footprint is, so 40% of that is children's services, early help. The rest of it is revs and bends, could be a few other departments, housing departments, but the majority are children's centres and things like that, the local authority footprint. Education dipped off, used to be a good 14% pre-pandemic, and we're working on that. NHS and health boards, that is majority health visitors, I would say. Housing associations, we've got a couple of those. And the HMP, we've got a handful of probation officers, which doesn't show as a percentage because it's small. So, yeah. And then some stats there for you. Our active referrers at the moment, they can range from 3,000 to 4,500 at any given time. Southwest, we've got 300, nearly 400 referrers at the moment who are active, but again, that can fluctuate. And yeah, we have regular referrers who make applications monthly. We have some who just use us now and again, and that's sort of how it works. This is our, so we've just finished year 6, year 1 in a contract term, and these are our 5 years worth of impact prior to this year. We're just about going to refresh this slide when we've finished our year-end reporting, and it'll be great because the actual money spent is going to be closer to 25 million. All those grants are going to go up, so we support, you know, another say 15,000 grants this year. Children supported, that's going to significantly increase, so that'll be really good. You can see obviously the impacts there. So the intended outcomes, 49%, nearly 50%, to keep physically well, emotionally well, and physically safe. Well, all of those items, those basic essential items, really hit that home, don't they? Okay. Just some referrer feedback. On the last referrer survey, so we survey our referrers biannually, and we always have a, is there anything else you want to say, type of box. So this is just a bit of that feedback there. We try not to make the application process difficult for our referrers, and that's because we know that your time is best spent supporting the families that you're supporting. So the application form isn't huge. I'd say once you've got used to using the application form, you could probably do an application in 10 minutes. It is the vulnerability and crisis bit that you do the small write-up on. The rest of it is data entry for the family. And if you've ever got any problems, you can always get in touch. But there is no save and exit facility on the application form at the moment, which was reflected on one of the slides. So if you are at risk of being pulled away from your desk while you've started the application, maybe try and write the vulnerability and crisis element on a Word doc and then put it in after, because I wouldn't want you to lose the write-up that you've done. It'd be so frustrating. And that's it. I think that was my quick whirlwind of the Emergency Essentials programme, because I always like to save some time for questions, because I think that can always be really beneficial as well. So shall I stop sharing for a moment?
Yeah, thank you
Yeah.
so much, Gemma. I just love how quick and easy you make that all look. That is just something so fantastic that people need, sort of, for what they need to happen quickly and easily. Does anyone have any questions for Gemma? You can pop them in the chat if you don't want to say them out loud, or you can stick a hand up. While we're thinking about it, I'll just stop the recording. That way, if there's anything that you want to mention in a question that is to do with someone you're working with at the moment, we won't keep a record.